swung into action.
Well, good.
Made it known that I was interested, and so here I became, executive director. A lot of people would tell me, you're crazy for that. Why would you want to do that? Why are you leaving the state to go work at HANO? But I just see opportunity. I see so much opportunity.
Yeah, and HANO is directly with residents of New Orleans. Right, and LHC is a step or two back from that. And maybe a level set for everybody in the room. HUD is the federal partner, right? Where the federal tax dollars, and then that gets funneled. So money that we see go to a Section 8 landlord. Yes. Trace that dollar if you don't mind for us.
So that dollar comes directly from HUD. So HUD pays public housing authorities a certain amount of funds for rental assistance for people who get Section 8 vouchers, we have other voucher programs as well, but currently about 100% of our revenue comes from HUD. So those funds come to us. We do get a small administrative fee to administer the program, but we pay those rents every month, and that allows residents to have a place to live, because we know in New Orleans a lot of folks just do not make enough to pay the market rent, the average rent.
So it does not stop at LHC. Money comes direct from the feds to New Orleans HANO office, and we get calls a lot. And I think that if we're just being very honest, what I hear people say is, oh, go to HANO's website. I don't know much about that. And look, as realtors, we take our ethics say that if you don't know something, you're supposed to disclose that and get out of it. But at the same time, we're leaving a lot of people who have a good situation where they've applied and they've qualified, and HANO's decided they're going to be a good tenant. And then we've got potential owners that have Section 8 that need help just finding a match.
Right.
So what advice where would you guide us in this conversation? And I think people are really afraid of where to even start if they were to try to.
So I think that education is key. And so one shift when I came into HANO is I reorganized the agency. So we have housing navigators. And also we have regular meetings with landlords and tenants. We have meet and greets with tenants and landlords. We do that monthly. But we have housing navigators to help folks navigate through the process. Because one of the issues I found when I first came into HANO was people were actually losing their vouchers because they could not find units in time. And that was a big problem. I mean, because getting a voucher is almost like winning the lottery. I mean, right now we have about 8,000 people on the wait list. So just imagine being on that wait list for so many years, and then you finally get a voucher and you can't find a unit. I mean, that's just crushing. So we did extend the amount of time that a tenant has to locate a unit, but also we have housing navigators in place to assist tenants and residents. So I would say definitely connect them to a housing navigator, and also we have landlord liaisons. So I think those two departments are key.
And then, so we have property management that we do here, and we also do tenant or landlord representation. So if somebody comes to us and says, "Hey, I've got a voucher," I think my first reaction a lot of times, or a lot of people's first reaction is, "This isn't, we didn't apply for Section 8 or whatever. I don't even know if we can rent to you." What's the story there?
So a landlord can rent to a person that has a Section 8 voucher. So it is agreement between the landlord and the tenant, and it's nothing that stops them except for, of course, if they work at HANO, like me.
So you can't be the landlord to people getting
right. I actually did have a tenant once, and I was unable to do that.
When you talked about landlords, so if we have landlords, how can a landlord go get, because they have to get approved to accept a HANO voucher, correct?
So there is a process. So the unit has to be inspected. The landlord has to approve the terms, so that they'll accept the amount that the tenant pays and the amount that HANO pays. So once they sign up, accept the terms, the property is inspected. Because it's federal funds, it has to meet certain minimum standards. Also now, the city has the healthy home standards, but it has to meet those standards. And usually someone will come out, we'll send someone out to inspect. If it does not pass the first time, there's opportunity to make those adjustments so that it can pass.
May I trade mic packs for you? We're apparently having a little issue. Or is that one on? Let's see. Oh, it is on. Sorry, 1 second.
Okay.
How long does that usually take?
The process of approval, I would say 30 to 45 days. And it does depend on,
How long does it last?
a year. So we have annual certifications. And every year we get with the tenant to make sure that, they, are still fulfilling their portion of the requirements. But it can last indefinitely. There has been some talk on the national level about caps on Housing Choice Vouchers or Section 8 vouchers, like 3-year caps, 5-year caps. Nothing has been solidified at this point.
So before we get into too far, I want to get a couple places, then maybe we go to questions. So where do you feel like inventory is for demand of people that qualify for vouchers, rental assistance, and then the number of units in the area that we can fulfill? Is it about balanced? Like where?
No, so there is absolutely a shortage of affordable housing in New Orleans. Anyway, whether it's workforce housing, people who have vouchers, people who don't have vouchers. And one of the suggestions, I was on the mayor's transition team, so one of the suggestions that I had was for us to get units into the marketplace quickly is to maybe provide some sort of grants for landlords, like small mom-pop landlords who may have an accessory dwelling or a unit that they can rent out, but it needs a little bit of work, maybe $10,000, $15,000 worth of work. So I think that if we were able to do that, we could really put more units back into the marketplace rather quickly.
They would qualify for, they would pass an inspection.
Yes, that would pass inspection.
One of the things I hear commonly is, the house has burglar bars on the windows, and that doesn't pass. Unless they're the special ones
right,
with
and
the
they
releases.
can be removed.
The typical New Orleans burglar bars have like drilled very well
yes,
into,
that is.
into those are not allowed. And really insurance inspections don't allow that. FHA sale inspections don't allow that. It's not just your house. It's not just a HANO rule. Is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a life safety issue for people being able to escape during a fire.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, fire
absolutely.
egress. So we need more units. Is the state's lack of involvement a current administration type thing, or the current political environment thing, or is that very typical across the country?
I think there's just a shortage of funding across the country. I think that if you do the math, I know there are advocates who say we need 50,000 units. I mean, if you do the math, it's billions of dollars, and it's just, and that's just Louisiana. So if you consider, the government's role, it would be massive, a massive amount. And I just think that, I don't know. It's no easy solution. It's no answers. But I do think that we have people on both sides of the aisle that are very interested in making sure that people have decent, safe, affordable housing. I mean, because one thing about housing is it touches every part of your life. I mean, I've been through things in my life, but I've never not had a roof over my head. I could go home. I might not want to. But, I mean, there were options for me. But just can you imagine someone that does not have a roof over their head or think they can lose the roof they have over their head any day now? They're not going to perform on their job. The kids probably aren't doing very well in school. They're probably not taking the medicines on time that they're supposed to because they're saving money for rent or whatever. So it just touches everything. And I think that it is just so important. It's too important to fail. And I do think that there are people who with great interest in it, and it will get better.
I wonder, what do you think, what would your pitch be to our clients who own a property? I don't think it's out of bounds to say that the city council is sort of at war with property owners from a property rights perspective, from a ban on Airbnb, from allowing Tulane Loyola to put 1,000 housing units on their own campus that do not get any property taxes back to the city. What that's done is it's created, rents have fallen now. And now we've got landlords who used to rent to students who were saying, maybe I should consider something else because I've gone 6 months now and haven't gotten a rent. It's Christmas. Usually
Yes.
we're rented in summer and,
Yes.
and I'm still vacant. And there's a number of those in this area. There's plenty of inventory right now, and these are conversations we're starting to have. So when we're talking to a landlord and we're saying, well, you could try to, make your house, make this more open. What's the sales pitch to that client?
Well,
Of why they should be more open to this and being.
so absolutely. A couple things I think of. HANO has moved to become more business client friendly. Okay, number one. I think that there's this idea of dealing with government. It's complicated. It's cumbersome to navigate. You don't know when you're going to get paid, all those things. So we have put great measures in place and worked very hard to make it friendly to landlords. And so that's the first thing. The second thing, I think that there's security in having Section 8 voucher holders. We pay regularly and on time. I know that there are a lot of landlords that lost revenue and rent payments during COVID because of the moratoriums. Even during moratoriums, HANO still pays rent for whatever the reason. One also policy that I changed when I came in is when there is a situation where a tenant is being re-reviewed or reviewed for possibly violating their voucher, we do not stop payment on that tenant at that time. So they go through a complete hearing process. We go through a long process where rent is still being paid before a decision is, before the rent is terminated. So that way, the tenant isn't out of a home while the process is going on. The landlord isn't out of rent while the process is going on. I would love to come back. I don't know if you're interested or willing, but if you have landlords or clients that you work with that has interest in pursuing other types of residents or tenants, I would love to come back and bring some of my staff leaders to talk about what we can do and offer to those landlords.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Yeah, and fill those units.
We get a lot of. We talk a lot we have a lot of back and forth here, and we get a lot of calls, and frankly, we are always in a position of wanting to say yes and be helpful.
Yes.
And this feels like an area where we have a lack of training. We're worried we're walking into murky waters and going to say something wrong and get in trouble, and these are just not areas that we have a ton of depth on, and yet we serve so many people, and I think we pride ourselves in the breadth of the people we serve and who our city is. So the argument I've always heard is that you're going to get paid on time. And then that's it. You don't hear one other good thing about taking public vouchers. And I think that that's changed a lot, and I appreciate that's why I was asking you that. But also, maybe speak to what can we give the landlord a very strict form that says, here's your screening, pick your screening criteria, and it's got to be fair housing compliant, right? It can't be based on all the no-nos, but on there you can put a credit score range, you can put an income to rent range. What does a landlord have the ability to screen on when they're
So absolutely, unless there's some type of discriminatory matter, anything, even just making sure that it's a good match. That whatever they're looking for, you can't discriminate against family, religion, race, that sort of thing. But you might want to just meet with this prospective tenant, and you want it to be a good match for them and for you. So that's one of the reasons why we have our meet and greet. So we try to put tenants and landlords in the same room, let them talk, and make sure that it is a good fit. The best case scenario is a long-term tenant. So someone who'll be there for years. That is, the best case scenario for both sides. So absolutely. Look, I was not aware that there were so many vacant units in this.
In the university area.
Yeah, in the university area, and it's good news for us because we want to place people in housing. So it's actually an opportunity for HANO and for us to get some of our clients into housing quickly.
Okay. Before I open up for questions, anything you want to say or anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked?
Not that I can think of, but I'm just excited because
good.
I learned something, and it's I'm very passionate about this.
I can tell you that people in this room want to be a good partner for our clients, for our landlords, and anyway. Okay, Holly,
I'm going to start it off.
go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Introduce yourself first of all, because
I introduced myself. Okay. I'm Holly Freeze. I'm the office administrator for the Keller Williams New Orleans office.
And she sees all the payments roll in on time and all this.
Yes, and I will honestly say I have definitely seen communication between us and HANO improve.
Okay.
I have seen an improvement in that, in quick, timely responses and things like that. So I will say that. I think the first question is, the first thing I would like for you to give us the breakdown on is and I don't know if you have that information with you today, but I know HANO just based on market value rents, and they have specifics for like a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom. Can you kind of give us what those basic dollar amounts are?
So, and they vary by zip codes. But I can certainly send that back over and share it with you.
I think the table's on the website.
Okay, yeah, the payment.
There you go. That's awesome.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So that's one thing. When you're selling a property that's tough to sell, making sure you cite that table. When we do deal of the week and Ken knows what the rent's going to be, he's going to that table.
That's not here, so that's another question.
Well, okay.
Well, we're here for questions.
No. I'm saying. Well, go ahead. Ask the question.
Sure.
I think that's an assumption. Like that's the most that HANO will pay is what that says. It doesn't say that's what they pay for every person. So it's all very much individualized.
That's saying the most they'll pay for the property.
This is the thing. I can break that down for you. So what HANO does is they'll tell you what they pay in that zip code for the monthly rent. And then they take into account the tenant's income. So then it's based on the tenant's income of that value rent that HANO gave that property, how much HANO will pay, and then how much the tenant is responsible for.
Yes. That's
Correct?
Correct.
So let's say the tenant qualifies for $986. I'm just picking the low number I see right there. But my unit is $1,250 a month. They have the option of paying the tenant has the option of paying the difference, right? There's no rule that says I can only accept the voucher. I'm asking.
Right, if they can pay that.
If they can afford to pay it.
The $1,200.
Right.
Yeah.
They can pay the
correct.
delta. There's no rule against it. I don't only have to take whatever HANO will pay.
Right, they do pay their difference.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So they're
The
required
tenant is
to pay
responsible for
difference.
their difference.
Right.
Yes.
HANO won't pay it. They have to pay it on a separate check.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Jesse, go ahead.
So I've actually heard otherwise, that it is like forbidden for tenants to pay the difference between what HANO will pay. So if they only qualify for $900, they only have a 1-bedroom voucher, but they want to move into this 3-bedroom, and they claim, oh, I have enough income to pay the difference. Their worker has told me, and this happened this week actually, that they are not allowed to pay that difference. This in particular instance is a renter who she has grandchildren who visit her multiple times a month. And so a 1-bedroom wouldn't work for her. She needs something bigger. But now she's kind of, out of luck because she can't qualify for anything bigger because she's not allowed to pay that difference. And so what I'm hearing is mixed things. Like how does that work? And what would this particular person do? Because I'm sure she's not the only one who needs a little bit of a bigger space than what she qualifies for.
So, one thing, the difference there is what she qualifies for versus what she would like.
Sure.
And so just keeping in mind and understanding that these are limited taxpayer So, you know, knowing that there are 8,000 people on the wait list, and it's one pot of money, it's going to be a hard sell to say we want to spend more money for this person who is single and only qualify for 1 bedroom to have a 3-bedroom because she has company and would like to, you know, have more space. It's just not the environment. That's the difference. That's
why,
difference.
like, theoretically, like, even if they could afford to pay that difference, they're not allowed to.
Think about it. If they can afford to pay that difference,
Sure.
then they should be affordable to pay their rent.
Sure.
So
that's
I
the
think
pro-
what
that's
we're
the
talking
problem.
about here is, I think what we're talking about here too, just to land the plane on this one, the difference in someone saying, I qualify for $1,000 and your place is $2,500,
Right.
versus a $200 difference.
So, and I guess
in
that
rent
goes
price
into my
are-
next
are
question.
very different because they would.
Is like if, you know, they qualify for a 3-bedroom voucher, but Hannah's only willing to pay, say, $1,500, but the owner needs $1,700, and so, you know, the tenant isn't allowed to pay the
They
difference.
are.
So, but I've heard on their packets, it specifically says that a tenant is forbidden from making side payments to the
Yeah,
landlord.
And I think you're right. And so let me.
It's
let
not
me look
allowed.
at that. I think that is correct.
Wait.
But let me look at that a little different and just understand that there are nuances, you know, to the rules. And the unit, it may be because of the unit, different things for whatever reason, but typically, if the amount that HANO says that rent should be, that's the amount that is capped at that. It just, I mean, just kind of try to think of it from a federal perspective and taxpayer dollars, you know, saying that I can only afford this, and then you're getting something higher, but I'm gonna pay for it myself. It's a conflict there, and so we have to be very, very careful with that.
So is it better just to wait till see what their voucher is and say that's how much Hannah is willing to pay, so that's how much you can afford the rent, so the landlord either accepts that or they don't?
Exactly. Now let me, yeah, and and they should have that. And so another point I would like to make is fair market rents. That is not something that HANO determines. It's determined by HUD. And so, yeah, and so it's issued yearly. And then even when we have requested waivers for certain zip codes that would allow us to go higher, we had to get HUD approval for that. That's not something we just were able. We sent them market analysis, market data to be able to go higher.
All right. Stephanie? Okay.
So I am a HANO landlord, and so to your question, you have to go by what that tenant actually qualifies for. Anything outside of that is not allowed. I have a question though, because I was talking to someone who's like this pilot program, and they were testing something with HANO as it relates to moderate to high income areas. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? As it relates to allowing some of the tenants that have vouchers to test and moving to different demographics.
So I think that's the whole point of having the different zip codes and being able to provide accessibility and to pay higher rents in different zip codes.
Okay.
So that's my knowledge of it.
Okay, because it's like, she told me it's like a pilot program that's been going on for like 3 or 4 years, and it's getting ready to end. You familiar with what I'm talking about?
So yeah, that's what
Okay,
that's
okay.
we're talking about the same thing. I don't know that it's going to end anytime soon, but I'm glad
Okay.
you mentioned it. I'll have to
Okay.
look into that.
And with that testing, I guess my question is, you guys are testing that to see if it's something that could maybe be a new program?
Well, I think that the point of it is accessibility, and so people can have the ability to live in all parts of the city. And you know, there are some places where certain people have been displaced over the years, and it's an opportunity for them to come back into those areas. So
Okay.
I think that was the
Last question. You had said earlier that there was at some point a shortage of properties available. Is that still the case in terms of availability for tenants?
Well, it sounds like what I'm hearing today, it depends on the area. So
Okay.
there are some places, sounds like university areas, where there are vacancies, and so.
Well, what we're trying to
But
break
they can
through is
very
there's no
easily
such thing as
become.
a, right.
Yeah, it is.
Is that every property,
Yes, everything can be.
Can be handled.
yeah.
Yes.
All right, let's try to keep it one conversation, and we'll go to James, and then we'll work our way back. MJ, I'll definitely get to you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We hear a lot of talk about producing more affordable housing, like they're breaking ground on Poland today, I think.
Yes.
Do you have your finger on the pulse of what we're looking at in the very near future of additional units in these? Because I think there's also one right outside the French Quarter, right at Esplanade being built
Yes.
too. So these are units being built specifically for affordable housing. Where is y'all's involvement in these bigger units, or understanding of what's coming out?
So
to us?
it varies. It depends on the development. So in some instances, we may have land that we have contributed to it. In other instances, it may be what's called project-based vouchers. And those are vouchers that do not follow the tenant but stays with that project. And so the NSA site that is going to have a groundbreaking today for workforce housing, we have, I want to say, about 72 project-based vouchers there. Sometimes we actually commit funds to different developments. If it's what's called a CNI development, they have funding. But usually projects have a very large stack of funds involved, especially large affordable housing developments. They'll have funding from HANO, the City of New Orleans, LHC, all these different agencies to make it pencil out.
And also, I know something that's on the books now is that with affordable housing, if you build a fourplex, that you have some leeway with other aspects of the city with short-term rentals, so long as one is affordable, one could be market rate, and, you know.
Yes, I have heard that, but I'm not familiar with it.
So when you look, a big way, when we talk about, I think affordable housing has so many different meanings.
Yes.
And, if you're building a, 8-unit apartment complex, a lot of times you're allowed to build 12 if you make 2 of those units below. There's a formula for the area as long as you make it below market rent, you can build more dense units. So if you actually literally pull up not NOLA property viewer, but the CZO, and you're looking at the density guidelines, okay, and let's just say you are zoned by right to put an 8-plex up here. You can go to 12. There's a whole formula if you make 2 of those units affordable housing, and that means they define what that needs to be below market.
And how long the term?
I think it's 5-year minimum. Yes, I think. But anyway, we're going to David or no? We're going to MJ. Go ahead.
So if you're a landlord and you're willing to work with Section 8, what is the best way to actually connect with prospective tenants? And is it best to try to get your property approved and through the inspection process prior to, or do you have to wait until you actually have a tenant that's willing to move in?
Good. 2 good questions. So we're in the process of creating a directory of units and landlords. So I think that having that information will be great. You could, I would say, you could go ahead and have it inspected, but there are certain timelines associated with it, and you may still have to come back and have it inspected again. So there is information about what they would be looking for, smoke detectors, that sort of thing. You can kind of look at that information and make sure the unit has what it's supposed to have.
I'm sure we can I'm sure we can send something to your office and get something back today, and
Yes.
we can put out in the post-meeting notes to everyone.
Right now, there's no good way to connect with the actual tenants who are on this waiting list.
Well, our landlord liaison. So
Okay.
I think. Yes.
The landlord portal where the landlord puts her.
Okay. Thank you for that. So I can make sure to share that information.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Willem, thank you very much for being here. We're excited that you're here. Question I have, excuse me, is that, you know, in order for us to be able to help a HANO tenant, if the landlord is not using a real estate agent, then it's not in our multi-listing service, and so that's all we have access to. So in the past, I've tried to get like a list or be able to go online or things, and it's just not easy for us as realtors to be able to find those units to help people. And I'll give you a perfect example. I was talking to a client who just acquired a 40-unit building in New Orleans East, and it's going to be for voucher families and whatnot. And I said, are you doing this with a real estate agent? And he says, no, I have it on the website, but I'm like, well, I don't have access to the website. So I think if there's a way for this, maybe real estate agents could have an access on the website to be able to access these properties, because again, we can only access what is on our multi-listing service. Other than that, there's no way for us to know.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I can look into that and see if we could somehow open up the portal, the landlord portal, to realtors.
Go ahead.
I'm listening.
Hello, good morning.
Not trying to shut you up.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Blossom. I'm a realtor here, and also I've been a landlord in the past. All I can say is that it was a great experience. HANO, it was great with working with you all. I was a first-time landlord at the time, and being that my daughter's grandfather, he was a contractor, he suggested that I, partner up with HANO at the time, because it'll help teach me and keep me in the guidelines and everything that I need, being a first-time landlord. However, with my experience, the things that I experienced was, like he said, at the time, in order for me to get my tenant that I needed at the time to start making the revenue that I needed, at the time I had to go in to the office of HANO, and they provided me with a booklet, like a whole list of addresses that they had around the city and vacancies that they had. So that's how I was able to gather that information and start the process of getting started with my tenants at the time. One of the downfalls that I did have, being that I had a really nice investment property, I had invested over $80,000 of investments into it, nice walk-in showers and everything. And that's when y'all had recently did the cap on the neighborhoods with saying like New Orleans East. We was only able to make, I think the rent at the time for the neighborhood, it was Morrison and Trappier, around that area. Most of the neighborhood was owned by homeowners. So if you know New Orleans East, that has always been known to be a very nice area for years, and those people don't play. Like, they're very territorial. Like, when I first came back there and they found that I was turning that into investment property, they was like, hold on, we're all homeowners around here. Who you putting in here? We don't do this and we don't do that. And that often scares low income. But it also does a lot for the landlords as well, too. It helps us, but at the same time, it doesn't, unless you have several properties. Because like I said, at the time with me investing, it hurt me because of how the tenant was. She was careless. She didn't care. Every time I would go there, I couldn't do what I needed to do. It was at the time of COVID. It was always, oh, we have COVID. You can't come in and fix this. You can't come in and do this. I would contact HANO. HANO will call me back days later after the situation when there's an emergency in my home that I need to fix the roof. It's leaking, and you all would say y'all have to go through protocol, but at the same time, it wasn't enough for me. I didn't feel protected as a landlord because I would go to the house and get threatened. I would have to call NOPD, all kinds of things that was going on with me. And they would have like 20 people living in the house. Like when I would go, like she would block the house off with things so I couldn't go check the rest of the house and do what I need to do. And you all would tell me, well, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what do y'all have in place for our protection? I even called the police, and I just didn't feel secure. And I love what I do, but it made me very frustrated dealing with how it is, and it also made me afraid to even want to invest in my neighborhoods that I was proudly investing in, giving back in that community because of what I was dealing with. I want to make my money honestly while giving back happily. I don't want to have to fight with my tenants while not being protected. So how can we be protected? What is something that we can do? And I have one other question. I'm sorry. And what is it that like, what are y'all plans that y'all have for us? Because I understand that it is affordable housing, but it's no longer affordable for the investors when the material we need is costly. We're not really getting a profit off of what we're doing at some time. You know, making $1,000 when there's a 5-family living in our home, constantly tearing it up. The money that we're putting out, we can't really save and make anything off it. So do you have any advice for us? Yes.
So real quick, I think, no, Blossom. Look, Blossom's been, this is week 2, and you bring a lot of experience to the table, and we're so happy you're here. I also think, did you hear one thing she said at the very beginning that got pushed aside, and I don't want it to get pushed aside, was housing vouchers are an incredible way to get people started in investing in real estate. And I think that's something we've got to remember that's a potential. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's sure a great way for somebody who needs to guarantee rent. It's as close as it gets, right? So now, as far as landlord protections and stuff like that goes,
yes. So I
tell
would
us about
say, so 2 things. One thing I would say is to really be mindful and careful when you create your lease. So your lease can give you access. Anything that you consider to be lease violations should be in there. And it should also give you an opportunity, if you need to evict a tenant. So I think that from some of the things that you mentioned, like they had lots of people living in there that weren't COVID at the time. But yeah, but a lot of people that were not supposed to be living there. That's a lease violation by anybody's standards. Is usually you have to have the people are approved to be living there that's on the lease. So. Now, with COVID, there were eviction moratoriums on a national level. Had nothing to do with HANO. But I think that some of the issues that you face certainly should have been violations that could have led to eviction.
Yeah, and at the time when I was seeking help on how to get her evicted immediately because I was threatened in a situation, I couldn't even get to the property and do what I needed to do without calling the police. She wasn't even coming to court or anything. And y'all wasn't even forcing her to even do that. Like, I was showing up at court. She never came to court.
And so that
it was okay, and so she just ended up, I found out she was leaving because she wasn't responding back to you all on the situation or me, and y'all had several complaints about her being nasty. You're not not dirty. I'm talking about like the way her personality is and things. And y'all had enough evidence on her, and y'all suggested that I hire a private investigator to get her out myself. So y'all had me working overtime. And that's honestly, that's why I gave up on being a landlord. That was my very first bad experience. And I kind of regret it, but I did give up on being that I was dealing with those situations, and I felt as if besides me going to get the help and taking risks, I felt like I didn't have the support from you all when it came time to me building my family business and my legacy for my family. It was no longer a safe business for me.
Okay.
So I do want to just say this. So our limits are to terminate vouchers. That's the teeth that HANO has. So we don't evict people, but we can terminate their vouchers. So I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what happened, but what I could say is when there are violations, the voucher can be terminated. From a landlord's point of view, evicting a tenant out of your property, that's where the landlord's responsibility, and so that's where the landlord comes in, and it may require hiring an attorney. I don't know, to go through the eviction process, and so.
Yeah. Well, I hate to say we got to keep moving on, but do y'all have an ombudsman or anything like that for landlords to help navigate these issues and?
Yeah. So let me go back to the office. And
That's fine. I'm just curious if there's
so that
we can say that there is a person that's designated at your office when a landlord has these problems that they can go to, and
we do.
COVID.
COVID was.
I hear you. That was a crazy time for everything. Lori and David will give you the last. We'll give you the last question. Oh, sorry, Guyon. You were there so quietly.
That would be quick. So I think like originally like the idea behind like HANO and like even like projects and housing developments was to like get tenants to like the next level as they transition. Are there any like programs or HANO programs that would help like current tenants maybe transition into like homeowners or like down payments or anything like that where they can be homeowners at some point? Yeah.
So I'm glad you asked that question because I wanted to talk about it. So with the Housing Choice Voucher program, that Housing Choice Voucher can be used to purchase a home. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that, but we're trying to, we have some that have purchased homes. I think last year 23 of our Housing Choice Voucher holders purchased homes, but they can use the voucher and it will cover a portion of their mortgage. And it's much safer than just buying without it because when your insurance goes up, your taxes goes up, the voucher can go up as well to help offset those costs. So it's a great opportunity.
Get us information on that. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there age limits for that? Or
No age limits now. For elderly people who have housing choice vouchers and want to become homeowners, it will pay as long as they're alive, that voucher. But if you're not elderly, it's 10 years. So after 10 years, you have to kind of graduate and be able to pay for it on your own.
all right, Lori first.
Lori and then David.
I know we have to screen our clients or screen our tenants really, really good, but I've been in the same situation that Blossom's been in, and I know I was able to call the HANO police, and HANO police assisted me to the door. Mm-hmm. So they do have HANO police.
Yes, we
so you don't have to call NOPD, you call HANO police, okay? And I think that the tenant is more than likely going to be cordial because they don't want to lose their voucher.
Right.
Because you hold that little voucher and dangle it over them.
Yes,
You know, they want to move to another property and do what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
Because I love the program. I think it's a wonderful program. Wonderful program.
Thank you.
Yes. Also, I know for a while y'all were doing the rents reasonable before you did the inspection, and that way we would know what the tenant was, what the landlord was getting, and then we would say, "Hello, landlord, would you accept this amount?"
Yes.
Prior to the inspection, and then after the inspection, then you would do the rents reasonable again, and that's when you would say, tenant portion, HANO portion. But I just closed out on one like last week, and we didn't do the rents reasonable first. So I just didn't know if maybe it changed around again.
Yeah. So no, that's a good point. So I'll definitely look into that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David.
All right, David.
Make it good, baby.
I mean, you've got a hard job, so thank you for that. But I just wonder, you mentioned a little while ago about the portal and about, like, I'd love to have HANO section. I have no problem to take HANO voucher if I actually found some tenants that I thought I would put in my house. I'd have no problem to do that. But I think there's a real big disconnect for me to find them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, and I've told people before, like, yeah, I'm happy to come and see you. Like, I'd love to have a database of people who want a voucher and they're looking for a place. I'll call them. I have no problem to call people. That's what I do for a living. But it's very one-sided.
Yeah.
I just found that the organization before you got there was very hard to navigate. It wasn't user friendly. And I don't know what's changed, but like even to call in, it was like you pray that somebody would answer the phone. And I don't know if that's changed since you've taken your role there, but just from an outsider's opinion, look, I'm a businessman. Look, what do I want? I want things that make sense, that are easy for my clients.
Sure.
And like if there's no repercussions for bad apples, you just get rid of their voucher, right? And if you're not willing to do that, then that destroys your organization. So I think you probably know how to handle that, but how do you make a portal that's easy that I can go find good tenants?
Yeah, so,
I'm anxious to hear more about that.
Yeah, and so absolutely, and I'm going to go back and talk to my IT guy and see how we can make it where it can be accessible to probably, and I'm thinking for realtors that have an MLS or something, there'll have to be some criteria to make it accessible, but I think if, not an MLS, but a license.
If we already have a landlord portal.
Yes.
If we have a landlord portal, those landlords should be able to access it.
But the realtors want to be able to access it, yes.
Realtors can't put our listings on your portal.
Yes.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
I've never done it then.
But I guess my
But
question
I'm not a
would be,
landlord if I'm just representing the seller, whatever.
as a landlord, I'm putting my listing on the portal, but I don't have access to the available tenants.
Right.
You're asking-
That's what I'm asking.
And so that's what, yeah, right. And so that's what I want to go back and see how we can do that, because I think that would be great.
But sometimes they want to move.
That's right.
And they're
Yeah.
just, you know.
Right.
And some people may think that certain areas are just off limits to them. I mean, and that may be, I'm thinking the university area, they just may not realize that there are units
Things are
here.
changing.
Yeah, things have changed.
Look,
Going on too down here, like a lot of, I'm passing like through my old neighborhoods, I see a lot of homes that stay for rent when people are saying that they don't have any homes available. So I think people are just seeking other opportunities and just elsewhere, just doing better for their families. A lot of people are seeking like subdivisions and things that's allowing them to rent.
I know you mentioned to her that, you know, we don't do your inspections, but don't you think that would be a great tool? Like, seriously, like I could probably get more buyers to buy investment property, say, no, listen, we're gonna have HANO come in. They're gonna go ahead and say what we need to do to this house to make it HANO ready. And so that way, this way, when we go to close, we can do a couple of things, we'll be able to get a tenant here within 30 days.
I like that.
I think that's a big concern, and I think if like you can try to offer a service like, or have a way, look, we can pay $50 for the inspection. I know it used to be third party, now it's back in HANO's hands.
It's still third party, but we also have, it's third party, but we do have people on staff, so I like that idea as well, or maybe just a preliminary walkthrough. Yeah, and so, yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's a really
Say 30 days, okay, when you start saying 45 and then
Yeah.
a go longer, that's like, then you're losing multiple.
right. So I like that idea.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
look,
like
everybody-
30 days, no longer.
what was
Yeah.
the line in the movie? Hope this is the start of a
Just
beautiful
the beginning.
friendship.
Yes.
No, seriously, I think working
Yes.
together, we can do a lot more. We can do a lot more. And
Absolutely.
We love this city and are deeply invested here, and I know you do too.
Yes.
So I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for having me. Oh, that's sure. Okay.
go ahead. You can take your picture. It didn't happen if it wasn't on social media.
Yes, exactly.
All right,
No,
we're gonna
I'm
carry
really
on.
excited about this. Thank you. Lots of good conversation, and I think that we can do something great.
Yeah, we'll pass along everything you send us. Thank you.